SFBarkast.
SFBarkast, I'm Jeff Cleary.
I'm Andrew Louder.
And we're at Clooneys.
Clooneys, which is, my God. I mean, the idea was...
Do you think we're ever going to get out of the mission, by the way?
Well, we're getting close. This is sort of like the border almost.
The outer
of
mission?
We're officially in this sort of like,
Slowly.
uncool, maybe you can buy a restaurant for less than $1 trillion, like, area of the mission.
You could probably buy Clooneys for less than $1 trillion.
I don't know about that.
Maybe a six-pack?
Like just the cost of moving the regular patrons out would be prohibitive. I mean, before we were at the 500 Club, and we called that a dive, which is really a disrespect to this place.
Yes, it truly is. This bar outdives that dive.
By a long shot. This bar laughs in the 500 Club's face.
Yeah, and on Friday and Saturday night at the 500 Club, there are a lot of young, good-looking people there.
Oh.
I'm willing to bet that's not the case here.
Any hour of the day.
Any hour of the day.
Especially this was the impetus for us coming here was to find a third shift bar, one that basically opens at 6 a.m.
Oh yeah, what time does this place open?
This place opens at 6 a.m.
Jeez.
365 days a year, and they're adamant about it, and they're basically they want it to be known that this is the home of the morning drunk.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's been said before, but any random asshole can drink till last call, but you have to be really committed to make it to first call.
Fucking A.
And that's 6 a.m. at Clooneys.
Well, and that's the whole third shift notion that some guy worked all night and so now he's coming here for a drink after work.
Or cab drivers.
It's really a cover up for hardcore.
Yeah.
People that wake up with the shakes at 5 in the morning because they overdid it at 5 in the morning the night before.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that if you got here at 6 in the morning and went over to any of the bar patrons and said, "Oh, did you just get off work?"
How's work?
They'd be like, yeah.
Of course.
Fuck you.
These open lesions on my face and the picture in front of me obviously tell you that I have a very important career.
But this bar is a staple. It has been here. It's been here forever, and it probably will still be here.
It's got, as
1,000 years.
Mo from The Simpsons would say, it's got the dank.
It's got the dank.
It's just.
We should describe the bar. It's this nice kind of horseshoe.
Yeah. It's sort of custom made for individuals. There's not really a lot of personal conversations between two people going on at this bar.
Well,
it's basically shouting across the bar "Hey asshole, this is what I think."
Well, that's the beauty and the genius of the design of the bar.
Right.
Is that it's a horseshoe. You get to see everybody that you hate. Exactly. And you can yell at them
and you get to hear all of their conversations and then pipe in
I know you and I are actually being kind of antisocial by sitting over here on
exactly.
this
I'm sure all of them are very suspicious of us right now.
Yeah,
they're hey, what's with the communists over there in the corner plotting?
What's with the semi-sober assholes in the corner?
Those guys don't look like they've barfed on themselves at all.
Those two don't know pain.
Hey, what's up, shower guys that like to bathe?
We should point out this is Sunday morning.
Exactly.
And
fairly early. We're basically here at 10 a.m., which is granted, football's on. But no one's here for that. This is not a sports bar, really. It's got sports, but it's
nobody in the bar is watching the game. Although maybe it's because it's the Jets game, and that's a worthless game.
Well, it provides a good background to make drunken comments too, where you can look up every once in a while and be like, "Fuck Sanchez."
Yeah. Well, you know what? This is something I want to point out about this bar, and it's not a dig on the bar, but you don't come here to watch sports, or you don't come here to watch the television. But they don't have HD here,
right?
So if you're coming to watch a game and you expect an HD television like you would get at the Kilowatt or any other place, you're going to be disappointed. You got these big tube sets on the corner.
Well, and you're sort of hardcore, jump up and down, douchebag types. They're not going to find any home here as far as no one's going to want to high five them. They're just going to be
exactly.
Why don't you sit down and bury your face in a picture with the rest of us?
If there's any jumping and yelling, it's two old guys fighting. And that's it.
It's usually not about the Jets and Redskins so much as it is.
It's you took my medication. But it is weird, like walking through the mission in the morning, leaving my house because I have to walk by Cornerstone, which is a non-denominational church.
Right.
And all those people are getting out, and they're all just like, it's so San Francisco. It's like, we
smug and enlightened.
Yeah, it's just like everybody's. I guess the philosophy of the church is that we don't judge anybody. Just come in and worship any way you want. And
there's a difference between that and just like a empty warehouse space.
Right, exactly. Well, I wouldn't want to put that to the test and just walk in with like a snake in each hand, sit right in the front.
Walk in immediately, like start pouring goat's blood everywhere, like make yourself a pentagram.
Like, you don't mind if I play Sabbath back here, do you?
It's like, look, you're infringing on my religious freedom if I can't play like in the Chemical Brothers as loud as I want.
Also, before I left today, I caught the beginning of the news program, and apparently we have 24 hours before the war starts.
No, well, good.
In the Middle East.
Well, at least they're giving us a heads up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what they said. They said that they're giving the peace talks like 24 hours, and then the tanks are going to move in.
Is that like in the Bible somewhere? Or like, you're like,
well, it's kind of a
giveth them at least breakfast to lunch.
No, it's like amending that old saying, like, give peace a chance. It's like give peace 24 hours and then start firing on people.
Well, that's fantastic. I look forward to it.
Apparently, this is what I heard this morning, is that the Palestinians were sneaking rockets in tunnels through the Sinai from Egypt.
Wow.
Whether they built like tunnels underneath, what is it, this Suarez Canal or Suez?
Jesus.
That seems pretty...
Crafty bastards.
Well, you gotta do what you want to do if you want to destroy another people. That's still my only source of income while I'm unemployed is sports betting.
Well, I think if history's taught us anything, that's a very reliable. Like no one's ever gone into the toilet with that.
Do you think that if there's a war in the Middle East, do you think some people will use that as evidence about the Mayan calendar?
Ooh.
It's supposed to run out on the 20th of
But the thing is, I mean, like the whole, but doesn't that sort of butt up against like the whole Christian idea is like, well, we got to like force this war to happen so that the
so then the Jesus
Jews
will come
and
back.
Muslims all kill each other off, and then God can come back or something.
Yeah, no, that it's not about killing them off. It's that I guess in the Bible it says that Jesus will come back through Israel, through like a war in Israel. So if we press down on the accelerator on this war, then maybe we can get like the Christ.
Do you think he'll be pissed off that it took this long? It's like, Jesus, like all I asked for you to do was like a big giant war in Israel. Like
exactly. If those people hate each other, how hard could it be?
As with all your peace talks and everything like that, I was getting bored out of my mind.
We were talking about the Mayan calendar thing the other day, and I'm going to be, I don't know where you're going to be, but I'm going to be back home with my family, and just because it's like the holidays, not because I want to be surrounded by the people I love.
You want bunker or something like that. But lighting menorah candles underground. It's happening.
But I'm a little... I have some regret about being with my family for like the supposed end of the world.
Occasion.
Yeah, exactly. For whether it's the holidays or Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. But because I know in San Francisco the Armageddon parties are going to be awesome.
Yeah, this is true.
Like remember the last time when there was this crazy preacher in Oakland who decided he knew when the end of the world was going to be, and there were all these rapture parties, and like it was so much fun. And then when it didn't happen, the the guy said, "Oh, I did my math wrong. I forgot to carry the 1," or some bullshit like that.
So he smudge.
He amended it, and it was like, okay, no, the end of the world's going to be in like 6 months, and then that came and went. But there were still parties for that as well. So like, you know,
this guy's basically like a rave king.
Yeah, well, it's like, you can't. I can't get my hopes up, you know.
Already like fool me once about the end of the world, shame on you.
But this guy I met in the bar was telling me the story about how when that first one happened, he read about this dude who was totally bought into it, sold his home, bought a van, and went out to the desert with his family, and then it came and went. And like all I could think of is like, that guy's got kids. Like, you know, there's like that joke by Patton Oswalt. It's a really beautiful moment when a child realizes that his parents are full of shit.
Right.
Like, that's the most profound example
this guy actually
of that.
had to travel back to tell his family that he's full of shit.
No. He brought his family with him.
Oh, he did? Oh,
but he
God.
sold the house.
Right.
So, like, now they're probably on that very long ride back to Oakland or something. And the kid's just like, okay, so explain to me again why we sold our house and now we live in a van? What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
You're gonna go local. In other words, like sit at home.
Stay home?
We're gonna set up little adorable chairs for all the pets. Actually, my wife was very worried last night because she feels like she's getting a reputation amongst her family as being like a crazy cat lady or something. Because like
no, she's not. She doesn't have just cats.
Well, I know, yeah, but I think there were a few too many mentions of like, you know, like, oh, you people and all your pets, you know, like as if it was passing judgment, like you're like, oh, like, well, you guys are like, you know, you guys are crazy pet people, like, you know, it's like, I'm like,
you say you're crazy kid,
right?
Who says that?
And that's the thing, is like at the same time, like you know, her relatives were saying that, like you know, like her relatives are also complaining about like, you know, like sort of empty nest syndrome, and like, you know, like, oh, we have like, you know, we have too much space in our house, and like, you know, like,
Jesus Christ.
It's like, well, like,
I'm gonna try that when I go home. Like, I'm gonna pull that attitude with my next sibling of mine that has a kid. I'm gonna be like, oh, another kid, you and your kids. Jesus Christ.
Crazy kid lady. Like a newspaper guy comes to deliver to your house, you throw a kid out of it.
Exactly. That's one of the things in San Francisco you don't see a whole lot of. I think I read some statistic that said that there, of all like the major cities, like this city has the least amount of kids. It's like there's more dogs in San Francisco than there are kids, which totally makes sense. You see more dogs.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I mean, you know, if like I feel better for mankind that that's the case, that people aren't like, you know, having a shitload of kids in the Mission and like, you know, dragging them around to like $400 restaurants and like.
Yeah, well, you know what happens is that these. And this has happened to some friends of mine that have had kids. Yeah. They all say the same thing, that when the kids get old enough to go to school, they move out. Because I guess someone said the schools are bad here. I'm not saying that.
I've
met plenty of people who've been to Galileo or elsewhere, and they all seem to be doing very well.
Right.
And but I guess it's the schools are bad and the private schools are really expensive. So everybody like moves to Alameda.
Right. Well, that's I was going to say actually about the whole you know, sort of end of the world parties and like, you know, apocalypse parties you mentioned. Like, I think that if it was, I mean, like, it's one thing to like, you know, be like, you're like, oh, some crazy preacher's like saying it's the end of the world. Like, if, you know, if shit actually started to go down around here, I think you would find like the world's biggest like mass exodus to Danville and Walnut Creek, like, yeah, in place.
What do you mean, like where if something like if an earthquake
if there were
hit
actual, well, I mean, like, not even necessarily, like just, you know, earthquake / you know, flood, whatever. I mean, like, you know, if it was just, you know, if it was an obvious like, oh shit, like something bad's happening, you know, or if it was actual locusts or
not me, dude. I'll tell you, I've lived.
Well, no, I have full faith in you because you don't really necessarily have like a trust fund family to go back to in like Walnut Creek or something.
I'm just saying that, like, oh no, not you. You don't have any options.
Exactly. You're gonna have to like stay here and paint your face and like stab people.
Exactly. Don't worry, Jack. You'll definitely be Lord of the Flies within hours of an earthquake.
You'll eat most of your neighbors. That's fine for you. No, but like, but I think that like you'll see like the whole sort of like fun-loving like hey, like isn't it fun to like make a party out of like like these things shed away really quickly and like and all these like all the faux sort of residents of like the hipster neighborhoods will like hightail it the fuck out of you.
I have a friend who wanted to have it's kind of a private fight club but it wouldn't revolve around like punching each other in the head.
So what is it then?
But it's a sort of doomsday prepper club.
Oh
thing.
boy.
So he asked me if I wanted to be in it because I have a motorcycle, and that was one of the requirements. You have to have a motorcycle, you have to have a gun, you have to know how to like escape.
How many times do you have to have seen The Road Warrior?
Yeah, exactly. So of course I told him no. Like I'm not going to buy a gun.
I'm not willing to put medieval shields on my motorcycle and ride around with a joust with you.
And he gave me that attitude, like, well, you can, if you don't want to be prepared, go ahead. I'm like, well, how about when shit goes down, I just stab you and take your shit. Also, another friend of mine we have our eye on this. If like the fall of society happens, we have an eye on a place in Cathedral Hill. It's like this.
Oh, excellent.
There's this huge old like stone church,
right?
And we decided that's the place we're going to take over and get up in the tower and just like peg people off, peg off zombies. We used to run the earthquake business in San Francisco. And
now you've got like Peru.
Now we're getting lapped by like Turkey and China, and like when people thought of San Francisco, they used to think earthquake, and now they don't. Now they think of like sourdough bread.
Exactly. Like fucking mission Chinese food.
Yeah, and actually that'll help bring the rents down as well.
True.
Sorry, the rest of the nation. Notre Dame is going to be in the championship game.
Most notably Manhattan, Kansas, as if anybody like lives there or cares.
So, full transparency.
Sorry, Michael Beasley. The only Kansas State player I can think of at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. So, full disclosure, I am a Irish guy from the Northeast, so automatically I'm a Notre Dame fan. And I know, like, the entire country, if you're not from, like, Boston or New York or, South Bend, Indiana, the entire country hates Notre Dame because they have their own, like, television contract.
Right.
But...
and they have touchdown Jesus. I mean,
and they have touchdown
Jesus. How
Jesus.
offensive is that to everybody else? It's like, hey, Jesus wants us to score touchdowns, and he wants you to lose everybody else.
Well, if you read the New Testament, Jesus preaches peace, love, and South Bend running the football and a good ground game.
I love my begotten son and Raghib Ishmael.
Tim Brown. We need to recruit Tim Brown. So, going into yesterday, there were 3 undefeated teams.
Right.
Notre Dame, Kansas State, and Oregon.
And Ohio State, who are
and Ohio State, who is insignificant.
Doesn't count.
They're not allowed to play this year because what happened? Like they got free tattoos for sports memorabilia, something like that. Like
I assume it had something to do with O.J. Simpson.
Ted Ginn Jr. like fucked it up for kids who weren't even in the school at the time. So I'm watching the Oregon game. Notre Dame's killing Wake Forest. They're up. They end up winning 38-0.
That football powerhouse, Wake Forest.
Wake Forest.
Right.
Maybe who knows? Maybe when they scheduled that game, they thought that Wake was going to be better or whatever.
Tim Duncan would be playing.
Rodney Rogers coming back, or so. I'm watching the Oregon game, and I'm kind of hoping that one or two of these other two teams lose. Well, they both end up losing.
Right.
But looking back on it, I kind of wish that Kansas, if I knew that Oregon was going to lose, I would have wanted Kansas State to win, so then it'll be us and Kansas State in the final game. Because as it stands now, it's going to be if Notre Dame beats USC, Notre Dame will end up playing Alabama, and I predict a 17-point spread, and Alabama's will kill Notre Dame.
I can see that.
I mean, how's that for supporting your team?
Well, there's support, and then there's the realization that Alabama's coach is a scumbag who will do anything.
Hey, believe me, if it's us in Alabama, I'm still gonna go watch the game, and I'm still gonna root for Notre Dame. I really hope they can pull it out, but chances are, they're gonna get steamrolled.
Yeah, I mean, I think the SEC is probably the last bastions of the mafia, where it's they'll do anything to to win, and so you never know who's going to be mysteriously injured on Notre Dame between now and January 7th.
Well, it's people say this about the SEC. It's the thing with those schools, they're the powerhouse conference.
Right.
So if you look at all those places, it's there's nothing else going there. What's the largest city the SEC team is in? It's maybe Baton Rouge.
Tuscaloosa.
No, Tuscaloosa's small, Auburn's small.
Right.
Columbia, South Carolina.
True. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're probably right. It's
maybe where's Florida? Tallahassee or is
Gainesville?
Gainesville,
or I'm sure that's one golf course and
I mean this is why when
500 date rapes.
This is why when Alabama has a preseason practice, they can get 90,000 people to come to the stadium. Because it's what are we going to do? Go to the theater?
It's either this or go to the local comedy club. Well, it doesn't exist.
Well, I'm all finished shooting stuff on that rock, so might as well go watch the practice game.
This sign is completely full of baby holes now, so.
But. Yeah, so I think we could have beat Kansas State in the final game, but I don't like our chances against Alabama. The other thing about the SEC though is there was a shot there would be no SEC team in the championship game, and that would have been beautiful because those people would have lost their fucking mind.
Right.
They honestly feel like they have this divine right to be in the championship game.
We had a great chance for mass suicides in the South, and we blew it.
No, they would try to secede.
Secede, form their own NCAA. That would be great, actually.
Well, that's happening, right? Aren't there secession petitions going around after the last election?
Yeah. So you would have to it's not like Texas could secede and then still be part of the NCAA. They would have to just have their own little dickish championship and be Waco against Texas every year.
That would be because I think I read somewhere that Obama was going to address the secession petitions that were going around on the internet
for some reason.
I have no idea if that's true or not, but that would be a good take if he just went, okay, you guys can secede if you want, but no more college football for you. They'd be all right, we'll put up with the black guy. Covered war.
College football.
Oh, I want to give us points because we did cover war before college football, which I wasn't really sure which one we should do first.
Right. It turns out college football is a real dead end. There's about 5 minutes of it, and it's okay, we agree that this should happen. But.
All right, what about the bar, though? I wanted to say something about the bar, I already mentioned how that got this horseshoe bar design.
Yeah.
I love the ceiling.
I was noticing that earlier.
I'm not sure if it's actually lights up because it's
that would be amazing.
Because if it does, it'll look like it's like this circular thing hovering over the bar.
It's like the end of Close Encounters, but with like Giants colors.
No, yeah, it's got Giants colors, but it's also, it reminds me of the light in the War Room of Dr. Strangelove.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Like it's basically like like popcorn ceiling, like that sort of like awful fucking 80s like ceiling type where it's like if you like scratch your knuckles on it like while you're like stretching your arms one day, you fucking cut them to shreds because you basically got a whole shitload of sharp pebbles in your ceiling.
Is this something that only a very tall person like yourself has a problem with?
I believe this was addressed in the movie Raising Arizona, where he like raised his fist in anger and scratched the hell out of them like while trying to punch John Goodman at one point. But again, maybe that's something I only noticed because I'm tall. But yeah, it's like this sort of UFO like over the like the Horseshoe Bar that like is made entirely of like of this like popcorn ceiling stuff.
It does have a very UFO thing theme to it.
Yeah, totally. And like the whole ceiling is like that sort of popcorn ceiling stuff that's like it's very dated, but at the same time like sort of lends a real sense of authenticity to a completely dingy and shitty bar.
Well, I'm going to stick to my original interpretation, and that's it reminds me of the War Room in Dr. Strangelove. Okay. Although, I think in this room there's not as much strategizing going on as maybe in NORAD.
Right. Actually, black and white would be kind to most of the patrons in here, rather than the harsh color that exists.
Also, like something I noticed about dive bars is they always have like photos of like people framed photos of people like from the 40s or the aughts.
Right. It's like I remember the good old days when everybody died of typhoid by the age of 20.
Remember polio?
Wasn't that awesome?
We do.
I think like what makes this like a completely like legitimate dive bar too is they're not afraid of the harsh rays of sunlight. Like they basically keep the door open all the time.
Go! Yeah!
So to update you, the Rams just scored, but there may be a flag on the play, so they may be coming back. This would be a great way for somebody to follow football. Would be like to listen to this podcast and like just occasionally be like, oh, I guess the Cardinals screwed up.
Not if you're like me and you have money on the St. Louis Rams.
Actually, that'd be the worst if you had money on this and you tried to follow it via this podcast.
Oh, these guys are not giving the scores.
Like, don't tell me anything that happened in the world ever. Like I'm gonna listen to all of it through this podcast. Oh, but as I was saying, the harsh rays of sunlight.
Oh yes,
are allowed to just drown this place in sorrow.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of like dive bars, like they have like it's like vampires live in there. Like they have to like board up the windows. They can't have any light coming in.
Yeah, exactly. Like which I mean, like it sort of in a weird way sort of brightens it up because you can like sort of pretend like, hey, it's nighttime and I'm drunk. Like whereas this place, it's like I can't pretend it's nighttime. There's the sun is rising through the doorway. Then like
Well, that's like the commitment that you have at Clooneys, right. Where it's like people know that light is not their friend,
yeah, exactly.
But yet they go right into it.
Like, you know what? Like I've accepted this a long time ago.
Bradford. What else do you got on your docket?
Oh Jesus! Well, you know what? Like one of the things I was going to talk about was the horrible East Coast bias displayed by the Pardon the Interruption television program. Okay, a program that we're both trying to quit and have been for a couple of years
there
now.
Are some things that I do that I know are bad for me.
Right.
But I continue to do them. And I think that is the textbook definition of addiction. Like you do something that you know is bad for you.
Right.
And watching PTI is one of them. Now, remember you and I, a long time ago, we had a blog where we would critique PTI. Okay, so people know PTI is a show called Pardon the Interruption on ESPN.
Right.
And it stars Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilwrong, Michael Wilbon, and they're like these two older sports writers who like to argue. And initially I was like, I like watching old people argue for some bizarre reason.
Right.
And so you and I had this blog where we could critique some of their shows, some of the things. Right. But we stopped doing it because we found out that all we did is complain about them.
Right. Well, I mean, like, and there's a fine but important difference between like critique and like just complain, and like like it would be one thing if we were like I could have done this a little better, like this is an interesting topic, but instead like all we wound up talking about was like Wilbon's full of shit about this, and like what the fuck is his problem, and like like why this, why that.
I do want to. I had this idea that I wanted to have the website michaelwillwrong.com,
right,
and just catalog all of his predictions because he is maybe at the Mendoza line, right. Maybe he's got a 20%,
but at least he's really,
rate.
really cocky about it, and completely sure about everything he says.
Well, that's the thing about ESPN. I feel like they reward that sort of cockiness. Like they gave Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless their own show. Yeah. And I guess like whoever the producer is, he likes to champion, he likes to brag that like he brought their ratings through the roof. Right. Which I think it's a little suspect. I think they like fudge the numbers. But it's a train wreck. And so they reward people who are like, blowhard loudmouths.
Like one of the most egregious examples in recent memory of like, and this is as much a producer issue as it is probably like between Wilbon and like Kornheiser. Although I'm sure that they have like some say in like which stories go where. But the day after like the Giants won the World Series.
Oh yeah.
Like,
excuse me.
We'll edit that out.
Look at that.
Like so, the day after they won the World Series.
What was their line? Okay, so they have to choose which subjects.
Yeah, and like so, the first story was Michael Vick. Like does he suck? Is his career over? The second story was about like how like are the Cowboys terrible? And which I mean like the answer to both questions is a pretty obvious resounding yes. And like they wasted like a good like 5-10 minutes on that. Then I was like, oh yeah, and by the way, like the Giants won the World Series. And like you can't tell me in a billion years that like if the Yankees had won the World Series, that the first 5 stories wouldn't have been about like like hey, guess what fucking Nick Swisher had for lunch.
Yeah.
It's like
Andrew, if Derek Jeter threw his back out fucking some model, that would be the first 10 stories on that show.
Of course.
Well, think about that. It's like the first story is about Michael Vick getting hurt. The second story is about whether the Cowboys suck or not.
Right.
And it's like, yes, NFC East guys. Yeah. It's even worse than like East Coast bias.
Right.
It's like
if Alex Smith was like diagnosed and died of AIDS in the same day, it would probably be story 5. Yeah. But if like Michael Vick wakes up with like a hanging nail in his pinky finger, like it's top news.
I have a little bit of a story about this. Like when I was riding across the country, I have a friend who works for ESPN, and so I stopped by Bristol, Connecticut, got the whole tour of the place, and then we were talking afterwards. And he mentioned some story, and I said, Howie, one of the reasons people hate ESPN is because, like that, whatever he was talking about, people only cared about in like the Northeast.
Right.
And he's like, oh yeah, at ESPN we always joke about that. Like they always joke about their East Coast bias. I was like, yeah, well, it's still true.
Yeah.
So, what's your take on the holidays? Do you like the holidays?
I'm torn on the holidays.
Specifically Christmas.
Just Thanksgiving/Christmas, or just Christmas.
I can take Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know, for some reason, maybe it's because it's secular.
Yeah.
But Christmas, oh my God, I am so ready to murder every jewelry commercial I see.
I can see that. Yeah.
I swear to God, like all the jewelry commercials and all the rich people giving each other cars with big bows on them commercials.
Yeah, those are horrible.
Like they started right after the election. So we honestly went from political commercials telling us how shitty the economy is to like rich people giving each other jewelry and cars.
Right. Well, and obviously, like, those commercials aren't meant to appeal to, one percenters. They're meant to appeal to, people that can barely afford a car, and say, like, hey, do you want to be like rich people? And then you will buy.
I thought it was like targeting the 1%.
Well, I think
those are the only people who can afford that shit.
No, but they're not gonna. I mean, like really rich people, like, they don't need a commercial to tell them to buy a fucking Lexus, and they probably wouldn't buy a Lexus anyway because it's a lower market car. So they're really like targeting, like, okay, like, do you have a job at all? Then you should act like you're rich and like and buy your wife a car and like as long as you fake it till you make it kind of thing, where it's like
fake it till you make it. Who are you, Hammer? Legit to quit.
Yeah, but it's the whole like sort of like if as long as you pretend you're rich, then everyone will think that you're rich. So so Lexus isn't like the world's most expensive car by any means. So like but if you can like maintain the illusion that like I'm rich enough to where I leased a car for my wife for 2 years and then I'm gonna lose it, like then good for you.
This is where we need a female perspective on this show, because when I
really
watch
only this.
I don't know what I'm about to say, because I feel when I see these jewelry commercials, like when he went to Jared, Zales, all that shit, I feel like they're inherently sexist. Although they purport to be very romantic, like, oh my god, like he bought me this wonderful thing, but like you don't have to.
It's really like
you don't have to work for the New Yorker to know that like all these diamonds are coming from slave mines in South Africa.
Like there's a plea to a certain amount. I think it's a plea to the totally unoriginal, like where it's like hey, like do you really have no idea what your wife likes? Well, in that case, there's a good chance she'll probably like something expensive and shiny.
Right.
Like so,
there is something inherently sexist about that. Where it's like,
right, where it's is the only reason that your wife is married to you because she can like brag to her friends about the expensive shit you got her. Well, here's some expensive shit.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So that's the basic that's the message behind the whole commercial to me. Is like
I dated a girl once who there was one commercial that would just make her lose her mind. And this is probably why I dated her, because like she was so cool. It was this jewelry commercial for like some diamond thing, and the catchphrase was "Make her fall in love with you all over again." And it's like she would lose her mind because it's like, hey, here's a diamond, fall in love with me. Right. Yeah.
Hey, you know how I've been fucking all your friends and like haven't paid attention to your pussy in like 50 years? Well, you're fall in love with me all over again, you materialistic cunt.
I'm not gonna bother trying to connect with you. So here's a big diamond from a South African mine that some kid pulled out of the ground. Fall in love with me.
Sorry, I missed your entire family's birthdays and all that shit. Like,
maybe this will make up for a lifetime of disappointment.
The only time it's ever good is when they make it.
Yeah, accepting this will be a lot easier than going through a divorce.
Didn't like Kobe Bryant do that when he had his like problems in Colorado?
Oh, like a $5 million ring or something like that.
$5 million. What is a five? How big can a $5 million ring be? It must be a knuckle dragger.
Yeah.
You know. And then they ended up getting
avoid all of the racist implications of that.
And they ended up getting divorced anyway, right?
Did they? I'm not.
Eventually down the road.
Yeah.
He's like missing 30 already.
All for nothing. All for pussy you could have just paid like top dollar for. Like imagine how many high class prostitutes you could buy for $5 million.
You've got an eye for imperceptible flaw. Loads of criteria for who you are looking for. You've ended love affairs with dozens of men.
All right.
We're back here at Clooneys.
This is
we
always
say-
the best
we
part of the
didn't say
show
where
when
this
we've
place
had
is.
a few in us and like we're
exactly.
rambling on about
Yeah,
politics
we're
and
interrupting
bullshit.
each other and we're.
Hey, shut up!
Hey, wait a minute. Who is it? There's some comic that says that you reach a point of drunkenness where you reach the wait a minute. Like if you're talking to a cop, and the cop's like, he's like, hey, wait a minute. Hold on, wait.
It's not what I said. It's not what I said.
Just everybody slow down. But so we didn't even say where this place is. It's in the Mission, but it's on Valencia and 25th.
25th.
Yeah.
Like, which is, I mean, like, if I were to have a crap load of money to invest in a restaurant or a bar or something like that,
It would be on Mission Street, but if you had even more, you would do it down here.
well, I would say, like, because once 24th ends and before, like, the way outer Mission or the,
That's the cool side of the Mission, by the way.
like,
South of Caesar Chavez.
Yeah, exactly. But there's, like, this, like, sort of choice, like, little, like, niche in between, like, those two places that still doesn't seem like it's been taken over yet. Where it's like, where it's like you don't have, like,
So this would be ground zero for that.
Exactly. Like, where if you wanted to, like, I mean, you would have to, like, sort of want, or well, not want, but, like, you would have to accept or expect the economy to improve and keep improving.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously,
High tide raises all boats. Is that what you're saying? Even the drunk boats?
some crap like that.
Even the down and out boats?
Even the boats that are completely upside down and have like 50 holes in them.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but like if you, if you assumed that this wave of complete gentrification and like bullshit continues, it would have to bridge those two neighborhoods, and like this would be where it would happen, where you could sort of get in on the ground floor.
That's
and this
true.
has been like my Jim Cramer financial minute.
That's your financial advice, which my financial advice is wait until an earthquake and then swoop down and take all the cheap places.
And continue to bet on sports.
Exactly. When my financial advice is wait until like the financial collapse of society and then take over a place.
and then bet the under on a Jets game.
But just keep taking the over, people. So we're at Clooneys, and I just want to say I went to the bathroom, and Clooneys is a great bar. It's a great dive bar. They've got a kitchen here, and actually, this friend of mine who works at a restaurant, we were gonna like find some place to go have lunch, and she said, "Well, we can go here, or we can go to Clooneys." And I was like, "Oh, Clooneys, I didn't know you had such a good sense of humor." And she told me, she said, "No, like I've heard the food at Clooneys is really good." So I came here and I had like I don't know, maybe their beef tongue sandwich or their French onion sandwich, and it was really good. So, good dive bar, good
It's
kitchen.
kind of insane that a place like this would have like, I mean, like, and they.
It's so typical,
believe
though,
you,
Andrew.
but, yeah.
Don't you think? If you like to play pool, they have a pool table here. And actually, when I was coming back from the bathroom, I realized right around the corner there, they have this bookshelf, and it's nothing but like Harlequin romance books.
So if that's your thing,
Yeah, if that's your thing. Clooney's, it's not all like, vomiting on the floor.
If you have this, like-
there's a soft side to Clooney's.
if you have this ridiculous like fetish of like romance novels and getting barfed on by like 60-year-old drunks, combined, like then this is probably ground zero for you.
Well, I mean, who else needs a fantasy escape rather than the patrons of Clooney's?
Who else needs to escape more than people who can't possibly read because they're so drunk?
Danielle Steele, take me away.
This pitcher of beer just isn't doing it. Like, I'm gonna need me some. That's great.
So, you want to talk about the other bars have gone? Here's a recurring segment that we do.
Yeah, this is like our first recurring segment, really. Like, I mean, like, I guess because it's the first time we bothered to recur anything. And that is like bars of yesterday, or like
This is
bars
our
that have closed
nostalgia.
down.
This is also a chance for us to flex our sort of, our
Exactly.
authenticity muscles.
Our chance to cry and brag at the same time.
Exactly. Although a lot of people, mostly therapists, wouldn't consider it bragging that we've been to a bunch of bars.
It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
So, when I first moved to the Mission, you and I were looking for like a dive bar to go to, and we found one on 19th and Lexington, and it was called the Lexington Club. And the Lexington Club has since been taken over and has become the flagship lesbian bar in the neighborhood.
True.
And they are going strong. Like every time I walk by there, it's like it's great to see a community that has a place to go, and it's very successful.
Right.
But before it was a lesbian bar, it was this down and out Mexican bar. And you and I think, are like two of the only people I know who have been there. And it
Right.
was really like something like $1.50 Tecates.
Right.
And you didn't want to sit down on the toilet.
If there's a Spanish word for sketchy, like that should have been the name of the bar, because it was like, to call it interesting.
When we were there, they had like the most feeble old man running the bar. like if you
I'm sure he
wanted
was the
to,
first one to go under the.
if
the
you
new
wanted to walk behind the bar and take all the money, he would just be like, no mas.
oh boy, not again. You'll only find $5 in the register anyway, so have at it. But no, it was a fun place, and like and definitely an interesting sort of transformation that place has taken. Because I mean, it is like like you say, like the flagship, like it's sort of like
The flagship lesbian bar.
yeah, like I mean, it's
It's weird about the lesbian community because like the gay community, the male gay community has the Castro.
right.
And there's not. I mean, I guess there are other lesbian bars, but they don't have officially a neighborhood like the Castro has.
Well, this might be like me displaying my own ignorance, but like it seems to me anyway that like gay bars are a lot more
Fun.
they're a lot more sort of like fluid, where where it's like okay, like this place is great 1 month, and a lot more like.
You mean they have different like theme nights?
No. Like where it's like this place is popular now, but it won't be popular a month from now. Whereas like it seems like lesbian bars are sort of like stables. Like, where not like horse stables, but like it's like okay, like this place is good, and like we're just gonna make it good, and we're gonna keep it good, and like and we don't want to chase around like looking for like the next big thing. Whereas like I say, this is like me being 100% ignorant about the gay community of San Francisco.
And let me tell you, every time I've gone to the Lexington Club since it's become a lesbian bar, I've had a fantastic time. Everybody there is like super sweet.
Okay. And not just because they think you're a lesbian.
I would be a strange lesbian with this big beard. All right, so should we wrap it up?
Yeah, why not?
The Niner game is going to come on.
And then everybody's going to go crazy.
Everybody's going to go crazy. So,
but you know what? This place, over the last like couple hours that we've been here, like it's morphed ever so slightly from like the really hardcore morning crowd to like a few sort of early bird hipsters and like stuff like that.
yeah. So if you get that chance, you should do that. Like get up
Yeah.
early and come see like the early crowd. And then,
Exactly.
And then once the hipsters move in, take off.
Like coming here before the football game started, they had Fox News on every television, and you had some really enlightening arguments going on, and it was amazing. I mean, like it was you just had you had people that I'm not sure if they've ever been sober, because I mean like if they're already like that completely like in the bag like by like 9 a.m. like when could you catch them at a moment where they're like at the moment of clarity
On the Lord's Day too.
Exactly.
Sunday. I just want to point out
goes without saying.
the bartender just offered us donuts. So it's a very friendly place.
Exactly.
So
Who knows how many times those donuts have been pissed on or where they came from, but
exactly, don't ask questions. That's come to Clooneys, have a good time, don't ask questions.
please
Okay?
keep your inquiries to yourself.
Ignorance is bliss. All right, so for the SF Barcast, I'm Jeff Cleary.
I'm Andrew Lauder.
And we'll see you next time.